are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Yo, Mike G, can you hear me, man? Okay, I can't hear you, so I'm wondering if something's up on here, man. We're gonna try to get this figured out real quick. Y'all let us know if y'all can hear Mike G in the chat, because I might have to steer the ship. Yeah, so he's not muted, so it's got some technical difficulties going on. So I'm gonna steer the ship for just a little bit. So good morning. It's B Will again, back in charge of the morning drop. We're gonna talk about what we saw on yesterday's scrimmage. We got a chance to go out there, spent about 20 minutes or so during the viewing period, but Hugh Freeze was actually gracious enough to let us do some viewing before that. Now, we couldn't take any footage of that, but we did get an opportunity to see some things, not too many things, but Mike G.
Yeah.
This thing. There we go.
Can you hear me? Yeah, don't know what happened there. Good morning. It's March 28th. You missed my whole intro because you couldn't hear it. But we still gonna bring the energy anyway. Holden Garner, we thought was maybe falling behind in the QB race, B. And then you and I attended the press conference as well as practice yesterday, and Hugh Freeze came out and said, hey, man, he stood out last week in practice and in the scrimmage. So now he did make a note that Robbie played with a sore shoulder, and they held him out of 2 practices, I believe he said, last week. They held him out of 2, but he also noted that Robbie had his best practice of the spring last Monday. So, a lot of it has been said about Holden and what his chances are and who might transfer, and we all agree not all 3 of these quarterbacks are going to be on the roster come the fall. But does Holden Garner have a real shot of winning this job after Hugh Freeze's comments at the presser yesterday?
Winning the job. That's a loaded conclusion there. I think it's fair to say he's caught up in the race. We noted it. Other outlets have noted it. What Holden appeared to be lacking was confidence, and I think we said that definitively on the weekend tailgate this past Sunday. So apparently last week he turned it on. I don't know if it was getting to throw at pro day or, being next to Cam Newton, getting some greatness that rubbed off on him when he got to have a little what's up to Cam. But at any rate, there was something, a switch got flipped. Maybe it was the opportunity that he saw getting to take some additional reps with the 1s or the 2s instead of the 3s because Robbie was unavailable for a couple practices. That could be the window. That could have been what let him know, hey, it's my time. I got to take advantage of this. And whatever did it, that opportunity, he seems to have taken advantage of it, gotten the coach's attention. And it sounds like Hugh Freeze now is impressed with him. Not that he ever said, I don't like that guy. But he wasn't saying Holden Garner's name. And when you asked him, the question was, who stood out? You didn't say, hey, how was Holden Garner doing? That's not what you asked him.
Right.
He offered Holden Garner's name when you asked how practice had been going and who stood out. That, to me, that means, so no, he showed something. Winning the job, though, that's tough. Winning the job, it's tough to say anything at this point in time. I thought from the last time I was out there, again, this was 2 weeks ago, before Robbie apparently hurt his shoulder, I thought Robbie looked the best out there of the confidence he was throwing the ball with, the zip on the ball. And if you're telling me that Robbie had a bum shoulder and a rough scrimmage, now that starts to add up.
Right.
Now that starts to make sense why that was the case. So the one thing I can say way this is good is we actually need Holden Garner to be available and to be engaged, because the worst case scenario I thought was for him to be in third, losing confidence, not thinking he had a shot, and then kind of falling by the wayside and transferring out. I thought that was the worst case scenario because TJ Finley has a ceiling. I think he is a work in progress, and I think he would take him a lot of work to get to where we would want him to be. Holden Garner has not gotten his shot. I didn't want him to leave Auburn without getting his shot. And that's why I'm kind of glad if you're telling me Holden's in the mix for number 2 or number 1. I'm happy with that because we've seen TJ. We have not seen Holden. I want to see what Holden can do with some good preparation. So I'm encouraged by the idea that he may be in the top 2, top 1.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, because Hugh Freeze brought up Robbie's shoulder before we went out to watch practice, I was watching that to see. It does look like it's bothering him a little.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what comes of that with in the future, because right now, I think if you're Robbie Ashford, now's not the time to get hurt, to spend the whole summer rehabbing. And he's still got time to win this job. Demonstrating, I think, an understanding of concepts and the system is what's really important to Hugh Freeze at this point. And if Holden is doing that along with going out there and making good throws and keeping his eyes in the right place and, making good reads, which are things that Hugh Freeze talked about specifically, then, he's got a good shot as well, too. Now, I'm with you. I said, now, I'm on the Robbie Ashford fan train in terms of, I think that he brings a dynamic to that QB room that the other two cannot.
Right.
And in our league, you need your quarterback to be somewhat of an athlete, or you need everybody around him to be exceptional. Heather Dinich of ESPN attended practice. She tweeted out last night after watching practice. She said, Auburn fans, you're gonna need some patience with your wide receivers.
She did say that.
So we're gonna need some patience. Now, I don't know that I fully agree with her. But that being said, if all things around the QB are not perfect or not exceptional, I think Auburn's going to need Robbie Ashford. But for Holden Garner, if he can be the type of quarterback that throws guys open, that makes reads, that improves the game for everybody around him in a different way, I still think he can be the guy as well too. I did not want to see Holden Garner fall to third on this depth chart this spring.
Right.
I did not want to see him taking third string snaps at 8A. I didn't. So I think this is more encouraging in terms of having a 1 and a 2A, 2B type situation rather than a 1, 2, 3, which is what it was last spring, with one guy we knowing having essentially no chance to start unless they get injured. Right. So, how likely is it now, do you think, or how important is it, if you're getting this feedback, is this feedback to you to deciding whether you want to continue your career at Auburn or not? Because if he transfers after the spring, he'll have to transfer out of conference to play immediately.
Right.
But, how important is this feedback for him in terms of, I'm going to stay here to play football?
Well, I think for him, it's more about, am I actually in the mix to do something? I think top 2, if you're on the 2 deep, then you stay. For any of these guys, if you're on the 2 deep, then you stay, because you're just one injury away, one play away from getting on that field and needing to come help the team. So I think 3 puts these guys in a position where they're like, I'm not sticking around for this. Especially with Robbie's injury. And that's a little concerning to me.
Right.
Because I've gone on record and said I think the highest ceiling is with Robbie, even if he is not the most prepared quarterback as far as operation of the offense and accuracy passing. Even if he's not the best at that coming out of camp, I still think ceiling, running the offense with Robbie, working out the kinks, and then getting some things going to where your running backs are in tune, the offensive line has gelled. With a quarterback that athletic, you are so dangerous. If everything can come together around a quarterback that athletic, I think that's the ceiling. But if Robbie Ashford can't stay healthy enough to be a legitimate passing threat, then we've got an issue. We've got an issue. And now I'm concerned all over again for, number 1, his health. But number 2, now you have to pivot. The pivot that we were hoping and expecting Brian Harston and his staff to make last year after the TJ experiment wasn't going so well, it didn't happen soon enough. And really didn't happen until Cadillac took over. Let's be clear. They did more things to change up what they were trying to do, but they were still stuck in the offense that they had prepped in over the offseason. Cadillac said, scrap it, let's start over. And let's do what this quarterback can be great at. If you start with Robbie and you say, that's my guy, and you got all these plays. And again, it's not even necessarily that they have to change and script a new offense. It's that what are you installing on a game-to-game basis? Is that stuff good for a running quarterback or not? Some of it's just going to be your offense. Sure, they're going to be pass plays, they're going to be run plays, but some of it's going to be specific to Robbie's skill set and what he could do. And it's a pivot that I don't want this offense to have to make midseason, man. I'm hoping and praying that we can choose some guys, have them all get better together. I don't want to have to worry about injuries, but it's football. Football is injury. I mean, that's part of the game.
Yep.
For our sake, I hope Robbie can get his shoulder together. If not by the end of spring camp, then hey, rest up, whatever needs to go. Fall camp. Now we're doing those installations. You're battling it out with whoever they brought in from the transfer portal.
Right.
Get healthy and show what you could do, because you haven't had a chance to show that. And I think that's what one thing is worrying me for him too. He didn't get a chance to show it last year because of a shoulder injury. Now I'm a little concerned because it's a shoulder injury again. It's the throwing shoulder.
It's the same
again.
shoulder. Yeah, same shoulder.
Man, that's concerning.
Well, it does open the door for Holden to step in and do some things, because listen, when you got to sit out drills, that's extra reps for somebody else.
That's right.
Right. That's an extra opportunity for somebody else. Now we've seen guys lose their job to injury. As a matter of fact, JT Daniels lost his job to injury. Did he not?
Yeah.
Stetson, he got hurt. Stetson Bennett came in and he just never went back to him. Right.
Which is crazy because he's like Stetson Bennett is clearly the better quarterback at this point. Like JT Daniels had to
back
transfer.
Then,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy. But how do you know what a guy can end up being? Like, that's the question you have to ask.
Look, B. They got lucky. They got lucky that JT Daniels got hurt because they were riding with him before he got hurt. He was the guy. And he wasn't like he was some scrub. Now, he never found his footing after he left Georgia. And I think that system and talent around him has a lot to do with that. He wasn't a guy that was going to carry a team, but they clearly thought he was the dude.
Yeah.
They thought he was a dude.
Yeah.
And Stetson Bennett said, no, wrong. I am a dude. I don't care if I walked on this team, right? Is Holden Garner like, I am a dude right now? I am the dude.
Well, he doesn't quite have the same swagger that Stetson Bennett has. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if Stetson Bennett had that swagger 2.5 years ago before their 2021 season.
Yeah.
Maybe he got it over the course.
Yeah.
He started peacocked after they won that first championship. But Holden Garner, to me, it's encouraging to see the confidence part start to change, because to me, that's what was lacking. I think it was affecting how he threw the ball in practice, how he operated in practice. Like it looked like he was thinking too much. But if the coach says he looks better, he's playing better, that he was notably better, then to me, some of that confidence is getting fixed, and he seems to be going the right direction.
Yeah, listen, when you're listening to Hugh Freeze, you got to pay attention to what he's saying and what he's not saying. What he did say was Holden Garner did well. What he didn't say was it was because of the rogue shot.
I knew it.
The rogue shot is the reason that he is excelling right now. It's spring camp.
Okay.
Rogueshop.com. Use code report to get 15% off that next Rogue Shop order. Listen, do you want to play like Holden Garner? Visit the Rogue Shop, and you'll be able to throw dimes to your receivers as well, but for 15% off. They got stuff for sleep, anxiety, stress, pain, and quarterbacking. Rogue Shop has it all. Visit the Rogue Shop, longtime sponsors of the War Report. We appreciate our guy Richard for sponsoring the show. Guys, you can become a sponsor by just giving us $5.99 a month to become a patron. We'll give you something in return. Listen, member-only perks, film reviews, this stuff that Ike is doing and putting behind the paywall for you guys. He works really hard on it. There's nothing like this in Auburnverse. Nothing, right? These film reviews are something that only we do. I challenge you to find anybody else who does anything as in-depth as the War Report film reviews. You can't find it. That's why you need to sign up as a patron member. We're going to bring you guys even more of this stuff. The more of you guys that sign up, the more we can bring you this content. You can also help somebody else sign up by giving a gift to the War Report and looking for that gifted membership button. Every membership goes to somebody who interacts with our channel at a high level but has not made the decision to sign up as a patron member yet. After a month is up, it's up to you whether you want to renew that or not. But I promise you, when the season gets there, you're gonna want to be part of the Green Name Gang in the chat. So become a Green Name Gang member, right? Gang bang in the chat, and just have a good time with our members. We have a good time here at the War Report. So B. Let's get to some comments here. I want to thank everybody for joining us here on this Tuesday.
Yeah.
Ike is in there. I lobbed one up for him, and I think he just missed it. YT burner account. Robbie is handicapped by not being live. It is what it is. His best attribute is his wheels. Now, I don't know that he's handicapped because the coach recognizes that he has this extra thing.
Right.
This is another question I asked about how you evaluate him, knowing that he can run and the other two cannot. He said, I don't know, but he's done it before with a quarterback and Malik Willis. So I'm not sure it's a handicap at this point, right?
Right. I agree with you. It's a handicap because when you're running these scrimmages, though, you can't just out leverage the cornerback and the outside linebacker and make them look silly chasing you and then they're eating the grass. Like it's something to show a quality arm. And this is why I don't think it's a handicap. Like you said, because Hugh Freeze knows, but again, to see that athleticism make a difference, especially against a secondary and a defense that is playing well, I think that would be awesome for a defense to come in and stifle an offense. And then if he was able to go live, like, okay, I got this. And he make a move, carry the ball for like 40 yards on something that looked to be completely stifled, it makes a difference. Now, you're not playing with a guy who you're not playing for a guy in Hugh Freeze who doesn't know what that athleticism looks like, who doesn't know what athleticism can do. I remember there was a tweet that I dug up in the last month or so where I think it was Tom Luganbill was reporting. This was after Lamar Jackson was in his Heisman season. And he said Auburn passed on Lamar Jackson because they didn't think he could throw the ball very well. Oops. And it was a 2016 tweet. It was from 2016.
When has that mattered in a Gus offense? Like,
okay, so I'm sorry. I'm trying not to get riled up.
Me too.
What I'm thinking is
completely foolish.
They evaluated Lamar Jackson based on his ability to throw. Like for them at that time, that was what determined whether or not we're going to offer him a scholarship as a quarterback. Do we think he can throw the ball proficiently? Now, they were wrong because he could throw the ball proficiently. Like in college, he was lighting it up in Bobby Petrino's offense. But something about some coaches really do. And I think probably Brian Harsin was like this too, which is why TJ won the job coming out of camp. we're going to practice this offense. Can you operate it? Can you get people in position? Do you know where people are supposed to be? And can you deliver the ball on time? That will be chief amongst the things evaluated for a lot of coaches. It's not that the athleticism can't weigh into it. How much does it matter? How much does it factor in for Hugh Freeze? How much of a reserve on the evaluation is he keeping in his head when he goes, man, Robbie was a little late on that throw. But if this was live, he probably would have ran for like 12. I already know. We don't know how much it matters. I think Hugh Freeze knows, though. I know Hugh Freeze knows. He's talked about how much he knows, how much you can't fairly evaluate Robbie at this point in the spring. I don't think he's going to be handicapped, but I do think if he could show it, it would probably make an even bigger impact.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Corey Weber comes in and says, you pronounce Holden's last name different than I've ever heard it yesterday. Have we been saying it wrong? No, Corey, he butchered his name. I was there. I cringed when he did it. I was like, coach, I think it was just a little bit of a tongue twister for him, but no, that's not how you say his name. He was like grinding around, right? Yeah, that's not it. Jonathan Taylor, I like Robbie, but if Holden can make a push, I like that as well. I think you got to have more than one quarterback, so you want him to make a push regardless. This isn't about, we like this guy and he's going to be the only guy, right? You need a dude, but you need a dude behind the dude who can be a dude if the dude gets hurt.
Yeah.
Or doesn't pan out, right? So having more than one quarterback is definitely going to be paramount for Auburn football in 2023. James Barnett says, fellas, how serious is Robbie's shoulder? And do you think he needs surgery if he ends up being QB1? He can't go back and forth with his shoulder issue, just my opinion. B, if you've never had a shoulder issue, a shoulder problem. Now, let me tell you something. Where we used to live in College Park 2, right back there off like Wire Road. Right. Yeah. We had a big old like sand volleyball court out there that we'd go out and play at all the time. And one day I go up to Spike because the women's volleyball team used to come out there and play with us. And man, it was competitive. They would beat us a lot. But I went up to Spike, put one down, and I felt something twinging here. I went to the doctor, and it was a slight tear to my rotator.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me tell you what the doctor told me. He said, Mike, it's not enough of the tear that I recommend doing the surgery because you are not an athlete, and the rehab is hell from a rotator. When your shoulder is hurt, you can't do anything. For a month, I couldn't lift weights. I couldn't, there's almost nothing you can do in the gym comfortably with a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Nothing. You can't hold a bar on your back like this. You can't do anything. You could do weightless calisthenics, maybe, right? You can't hold yourself up in a push-up position. It sucks. So
it's rough.
Yes, shoulder injuries are hard on athletes on almost any sport because when you run, you feel it. Doesn't even matter if you're throwing.
Right.
It's too hard to immobilize the shoulder completely. You jar it, it hurts. If it's still bothering him, I'm just wondering, should he have shut it down early last season and gone and had surgery? Right. If he ends up having surgery this offseason, or did he? I'd just be interested to see if he aggravated it more this spring. I have so many questions about this.
So I've had a torn labrum. I tore my labrum in my left shoulder, and what it was, of course, the labrum is this tissue in the socket where it kind of keeps your shoulder joint together. It kind of hugs that shoulder bone, and so once it tore, my shoulder would pop out. It was the scariest thing ever. The scariest thing ever. Like I was going up some flight of stairs and I was running and I grabbed the rail and pulled myself. I was like, oh. And then I had to kind of like slide it back in a couple times before I had the surgery, right? So the thing about a shoulder injury and the surgery is they have to cut through all your shoulder muscles to get to the bone to repair it. This is why shoulder injuries suck. All that muscle is all the muscle that you've strengthened over years and years of just being a human and operating, right? It's taken back to a point where like now you're 3 years old. Your shoulder muscles are done because you just cut them in half to get in there and fix the thing. Rehab is like, honestly, for me, I'm a regular guy. My rehab was like 3 months. What's it need to be for an athlete who's going to be out there using that shoulder to do his job? Like now you have to not just repair it, you have to get it strong and even stronger than it was before to prevent injury from reoccurring. It would be major if he had to go down with this shoulder injury. I don't think it would be catastrophic because if it's a situation where he's re-injuring it because he needs surgery, he can get it right after spring, and then he can be ready for fall camp. Now, he won't be ready for fall camp. He won't be ready for summer workouts.
Right.
He'll be working out, I'm sure. He can go and run by that point in the process. If it's 3 months post-op, you can go and do some things. You can run. It's not going to hurt when you run, but you're talking about putting the type of strain and force on that shoulder that you have to put as a quarterback. It's rough, man. It's rough. So that may take Robbie out of contention. We're talking about the offseason prep that you can do. All right, well, we know we got a receiver room set. We got some type of two deep coming out of the spring. Robbie wants to go out there and get work with these guys. Can't. You want to get work with these guys in May and in June. Can't, because he will be recovering from an injury.
Right.
So it would be a really big deal if he had to get surgery to get it repaired. I don't know what the diagnosis is for it. I just hope that he can contribute and be himself, because if he's talking about, I'm gonna take a chance with this thing, like this is the second time in 6 months that the same shoulder is giving him trouble. I don't know. I'm hoping he can get that shoulder strong enough and ready to go for the fall without further complication.
Yeah, well, agreed. It's gonna be something we're gonna have to keep an eye on. Leanne Owen, War Eagle people, as long as one is that good, I still think it's going to be TJ. How tall is Holden? 6'3"?
6'3". He's tall.
Yeah, 6'3". He's tall.
Yeah,
tall guy. I think TJ's taller, but we'll see. TJ's out there. Hugh Freeze didn't mention him during the press conference, but we saw him out there taking just as many meaningful snaps as everybody. So we'll see. Corey Weber, is this just a tired shoulder issue? Shouldn't be related to contact. Now, I think that it's not related to contact is more concerning. So, again, this is one of those things where we'll see. But non-contact injuries scare me more than contact injuries. YT Burner, rooting for Robbie and Holden, but I'm of the opinion that Hugh gets our starter in the second window. We'll see who's out there that's that impressive. A lot of people are on McCall and, there's all these names here, but there's nobody that's super proven. And And then they're going to have to come in and learn whatever Hugh Freeze has to offer post-spring. So, if I'm these guys, I'm shutting the door on that by having a superior knowledge of the inner workings of whatever they teach us this spring. So that dude has a lot of catching up to do on me, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Corey Weber, wide receivers are learning a whole new system. Takes time to feel comfortable in an offense. Definitely more than 9 practices. Not concerned with Heather's comment. Yeah, I just think, our comment was essentially your wide receivers aren't there just yet. And there's still a ton of talent in that room.
And some guys were out. Camden Brown was not in full motion yesterday.
Yeah. We didn't see Camden a whole lot.
Yeah, he was out there, but he wasn't going in. Hugh said that at the scrimmage, the wide receivers
were dinged up.
They were dinged up. He was like, so we didn't see the progress we want to see with them, specifically because the main guys weren't out there. So it doesn't discourage me that Heather made that report.
Yeah, for sure. Princeful 2000 Chuku. Robbie could sit out 2023, get healthy, learn the playbook, and be a force in 2024. He don't want to hear this, man. Listen, man, sitting out a year is brutal because they're always recruiting the next kid, and then somebody else you got to compete with the next year. So I know he's trying to get back as soon as possible. Receivers, Steve Bradley says, have all offseason to get their issues resolved. If Robbie is still having issues with the same shoulder, then maybe he needs to see if it needs surgery to get corrected to come back strong. This is going to be a TBD. Yeah. Right. I mean, once you start talking about the same shoulder injury, I do think this, you got, what did the doctors miss? Right. And should he have shut it down earlier if he was eventually going to need surgery anyway? I have questions about how this was managed. Now,
Robbie wanted to tough it out, though. He did not want to punt on the season. What would you? Oh my! I can't even imagine what last season looks like if Robbie Ashford isn't there for the last month of the season.
I get it, but he's got to do it's what's in his own best interest. Right?
I agree.
He's got to do what's in his own best interest. So that may have not been it might have been a better decision for the team at the time, but it may not have been the best long-term decision for Robbie Ashford. Right?
But there was a window there where after the season, because the season's over the end of November, he could have gotten surgery if it was necessary. But I think at the time the doctors said he doesn't need surgery.
Yeah.
So that was the prognosis at the time. I'm wondering if the doctors say, hey, we don't need surgery, then did he damage it so much by playing with it? Or is it just it's going to hurt, but you can make it through? And I don't know.
Yeah. Well, doctors are wrong a lot. So we'll see.
Yeah. You know more than most.
They're wrong a lot. Mike G, I had a rotator cuff and torn labrum, so I feel Robbie's pain. I eventually had to get surgery because I couldn't do anything. That's why I was asking, and I wasn't even getting hit. Yeah. Right. Like, man, let me tell you, I try to explain it to people, that shoulder injuries are hard. They're really hard on the body. And if you get your shoulder injured, there's a lot that it limits you from doing, not just throwing.
Yeah.
It is hard to condition yourself with a shoulder injury. Now, these guys have access to state-of-the-art equipment. They've got access to some of the best rehabilitation stuff in the country.
Yeah.
Right, at Auburn. Right, but the one thing they don't have access to is the Rogue Shop.
All right, that's not that one. That's not that one. Okay, all right, okay.
Rogue Shop, 15% off. You can get access to the Rogue Shop with code report, 15% off on that next order. Pain, sleep, anxiety, stress, or if you just want to throw like Holden Geriner, bam, Rogue Shop will help you out. So visit the Rogue Shop to get that next order in. Become a sponsor of the World Report like the Rogue Shop, just on another level by becoming a patron member. $5.99 a month will get you in the door to become a patron member, help support our content. The more of you guys sign up for this, the more content we can bring you. So please help support the work we're doing by becoming a patron member. Help other people become patrons by gifting a membership. Look for that gifted membership button. YouTube selects people who interact with our channel at a high level but haven't made the decision to become a patron yet. So if you like, comment, and you're subscribed, and you do all those things often, guess what, man? You're most likely to be on the receiving end of one of these gifted memberships. So become a patron member and join our community. Guys, that is it for this morning's Morning Drop. B and I will be back at you guys tomorrow morning to talk a little bit more Auburn football. But until then, always remember, drop it on me.
drop.